Florida State set to take on UNC back at home inside Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday at 3:30 on ESPN. Welcome back to your game preview with the Nole Insiders. I'm Lane Hurt along with Tim Linnefelt. Before we get going, let's learn a little bit about UNC. Of course, then they're in the ACC, the Coastal Division, 3-1 on the year, 1-0 in the conference. Ranked 23rd in the coaches poll, averaging 41.3 points a game, 27th in the nation. Their time of possession, however, they're only holding onto the ball for 23 minutes a game. That's ranked 126th nationally. On defense, they're also giving up 30 points per game. That is 84th nationally. And of course, they're also down in the bottom in rushing stats as well. Very similar, potentially, of what last week's game was like against USF, but UNC a little bit better than that Bulls team.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it does sort of look like the type of game that will play into maybe what we saw when FSU visited South Florida last week. A high-powered passing offense. Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback there at UNC, is ranked number 2 nationally in completion percentage. He completes around 75% of his passes. Last week against Pittsburgh, he threw for more than 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he's yet to throw an interception this season. So it should be a challenge for Florida State secondary. But the other side of that is they, like a lot of the teams Florida State has played this year, like to spread it out, like to play hurry-up, rush up to the line, and keep things moving. And when that offense is clicking, it can be really dangerous for opposing defenses. But when it's not, it leads to, like you said there, a really low time of possession. And we saw Florida State last week hold the ball for more than 40 minutes against South Florida, and it seems like it could sort of set up that way again, especially if Florida State's running game is able to get going the way it did against the Bulls.
Yeah, that's really the big question is, can Florida State slow down that offense enough to get off the field and get the ball back, and then can that running game once again have the kind of impact they did last week?
Yeah, and look, what we saw, I think, against USF was extremely encouraging in Dalvin Cook's production. Seeing him break off that long touchdown run at the very beginning of the game, it was big, one, because Florida State was down 7-0 after one play, so to see the Seminoles strike back with the haymaker of their own was really good to see, but also just to see Dalvin Cook be Dalvin Cook that way. I know we kind of wondered back and forth over the last few weeks. Is he maybe hurt? Is there something going on there? I don't know. He insisted he was fine the whole time, and he definitely was on Saturday. And so if that's a harbinger of things to come, that's great news for Florida State and bad news for Florida State's opponents.
And that leads right into our stat of the week. Thanks from the guys of Pro Football Focus. Dalvin Cook, these numbers are really good. He's broken 18 tackles so far this season. That's second in the nation. He's also averaging 4.4 yards after contact, which is 7th in the nation. If you want to look at things about our offensive line, how things are getting better, well, in the 492 rushing yards that the Noles produced against USF, 149 came before contact. In the 3 games combined before that, they had given up 162 yards before contact. Clearly, Dalvin Cook has done some good things this year, but also the offensive line really improved last week.
Yeah, and maybe it really is that simple. When we saw Dalvin kind of struggle to get going against Ole Miss or Louisville, it was pretty often that he was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage, and he was still able to make a few guys miss, but it was more to turn a loss of yardage or no gain into a short gain. Well, now with the offensive line getting a little bit further downfield and Dalvin getting in just to a little bit of space, he's able to do what he does so well, which is turn a 4, 5, 6 yard gain into a 70-yard gain. So it all works in concert, and after making some changes up front on the offensive line, we saw Brock Rubel there at right tackle against USF. The line had its best game of the season against USF, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the line's best game of the season dovetailed with Dalvin Cook's best game of the season.
And Dalvin said it himself. He said that when the offensive line does their job, then it's time for him to do his job, which means make that 1 or 2 guys miss downfield that leads into potentially a breakout run.
Absolutely. So, again, you want to see it carry on this week from last week's game against USF, but the fact that it happened, we've seen it with our eyes. We've seen Dalvin Cook look good. We've seen the offensive line look like they can open up some holes for him. It's just a really encouraging development.
Don't forget about Jacquez Patrick, who had a 100-yard game last week. Those two are proving to be a very good change of pace with each other.
And Jacquez showed off some wheels in that game, too. He's kind of known as the big, heavy bruising guy, but he had some runs down there on the sideline and some spin moves and some jukes. I think he likes to show that he's not just the Jerome Bettis type. He actually can move a little bit.
I think he was secretly hoping he'd be tackled on one of those, though. But yeah, he did show that he had some breakaway speed as well. Now we move to special teams now to talk about our matchup of the week, and that would be Ryan Switzer, the the Tar Heels punt returner and wide receiver versus the Noles punt return defense, which right now ranks 127th in the nation. Granted, that was pretty much all done against Louisville, but still, the Noles are going to have to punt at some point. Can they slow down Switzer?
That's the big question, and the answer for most people in the country is not really. He hasn't broken out a big one just yet, but he does have 7 career punt returns for touchdowns and actually has a chance to set the NCAA record this season. He's really, really dangerous, really quick, has great vision, and is also North Carolina's leading wide receiver as well. I believe I read he's roommates with Mitch Trubisky, North Carolina's quarterback, so you bet those two have a great rapport. So Ryan Switzer, he's going to be involved in the passing game and special teams, and I think Florida State fans, they're going to know who he is by the end of the game.
I've always wondered about that, the whole roommates with the quarterback thing. I mean, is he threatening him at night?
Yeah,
or is it just so great best buds? Are they watching movies together every night?
You threaten Shores, I'll wash the dishes if you throw me more passes Saturday? I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. The Nole Insiders will have everything you need. We have your 3 keys on Saturday, and of course, we'll have your analysis from Tim written, and then we'll have, of course, your video content, your highlights, your post-game recap, and your reactions from head coach Jimbo Fisher and the players as Florida State takes on North Carolina, finally back at Doak Campbell Stadium.
It's been a long time, man, and he's 3 games away from home to start the season. When they announced the schedule in February, like, oh, that'll be interesting. But now that we've actually been through, it's like, man, it kind of feels like the season hasn't even started in some ways. They haven't been at home very much. So that'll be great, and also good to get North Carolina in here. It's the first time Florida State and North Carolina have met on the football field since 2010. It's kind of just the reality of modern college football with the major conferences, but it's good to see some new blood in here every once in a while.
I'd agree 100%. And fans, you don't want to miss it, so make sure you get inside the stadium for this one. And if you can't make it to Tallahassee, 3:30 on ESPN. So for Tim Linnefelt, I'm Lane Hurt. Go Noles.